Curt Long, Head of Emerging Issues and Deputy Chief Economist for America's Credit Unions, here with our second quarter forecast update. In our previous forecast, we emphasized that uncertainty was high. If anything, that's turned out to be a massive understatement. We met in early April to assemble this forecast after President Trump's Liberation Day announcement of reciprocal tariffs. Since our meeting, the President issued a 90-day pause on those tariffs while assessing new tariffs on China. The immediate reaction was relief. But if you weigh U.S. trade by point of origin, the President's second tariff announcement didn't really change the overall effective tariff rate. It amounted to a shift in tariffs from the rest of the world to China rather than a reduction in overall tariffs. We assumed the policies in place when we met, the reciprocal tariffs, would stay in place through 2026. As you'll see, our outlook based on that set of information is not great. Even if our forecast group reassessed this with the 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs, I doubt the results would be too different. The full weight of the tariffs is roughly what was announced on Liberation Day. And even beyond the tariffs, we have several underlying concerns about the economy. Those concerns include slowing economic momentum, an uncertain environment that will constrain hiring and investment, and financial market volatility. Our forecast for 2025 GDP is now just 0.5%. We place the odds of recession over the next year at 60%. We expect that to hit in the second half of 2025, possibly stretching into 2026. As you can see, we don't expect growth in either year to be below zero. Any recession is likely to be relatively short-lived and moderate. One source of strength right now is household balance sheets. Revolving debt is about 6% of disposable income. Prior to the Great Recession, that figure was 9%. One reason the Great Recession was so severe and lasted so long is that it forced households into a massive deleveraging effort, which constrained spending. Today's homeowners also have a lot of equity to draw on. That's another difference between today and 2007. Housing supply today is very constrained, which should keep home values stable. When it comes to the labor market, the news is mixed. On the bright side, the unemployment rate is low and stable, but the hiring rate is extremely low, 2014 low. The reason for the stable unemployment rate is layoffs are also extremely low. But we don't know the full impact of federal government job cuts. And uncertainty among employers is high, which will further suppress any hiring impulse. We see unemployment rising to 5% by the end of this year and lingering into 2026. Initially, tariffs are likely to create upward price pressure as imports become more expensive and production costs rise. If done in moderation, producers can adjust by finding cheaper sources of inputs. They absorb some of those costs, which will reduce profits, while passing others on to consumers. That loss of profits on the corporate side and loss of real income for households constrains investment and consumption, slowing the economy. Slow growth, combined with high inflation, is the dreaded stagflation scenario, and it's a distinct possibility. A big reason stagflation is so dangerous is it puts the Federal Reserve in a bind. Normally, if prices are rising, the Fed wants to raise rates to slow the economy and bring price growth back to normal. If the economy is decelerating and unemployment is rising, the Fed wants to lower rates to stimulate growth and hiring. So a scenario where both unemployment and inflation are rising puts the Fed between a rock and a hard place. For that reason, we only expect 2 rate cuts this year, even as we see the unemployment rate rising to 5%. That still leaves rates in a position where they're slowing the economy down. We think that by 2026, inflation will flatten out, we'll be in a recession, and the Fed will, at that point, feel fully committed to cutting rates. We have 5 rate cuts penciled in for next year. What about long-term rates? Normally, Treasury rates fall as growth slows and markets begin to price in the possibility of future rate cuts from the Fed. And we have seen markets raising their expectation for future rate cuts. That standard story is the one that underlies our expectation that 10-year rates will settle below 4%. But lately, Treasury rates have been climbing. It's probably too early to venture a guess as to why that's happening, but it is another source of uncertainty and concern. What does all this mean for credit unions? Well, we do think economic uncertainty will help address lingering liquidity issues. When uncertainty grows, consumers tend to save a larger share of their paycheck, and they tend to do so with trusted, federally insured institutions like credit unions. We expect the strongest year for share growth since 2021. Loan growth, on the other hand, will be only slightly stronger than last year. Many of the loans credit unions do make this year will likely be booked in the first half of the year. Auto sales in March reached their highest level since 2017, outside of a brief surge in 2021, as car buyers try to beat the expected effects of tariffs. Loan performance has been an area of focus for credit unions and regulators. In our last forecast, we anticipated improvement in delinquencies and charge-offs. Unfortunately, with the expected rise in unemployment, we now see those measures climbing in 2025 and 26. That will put downward pressure on credit union earnings. We expect an ROA of just 40 basis points in 2025 as credit unions fund their loan loss reserves in anticipation of higher charge-off rates. As the outlook begins to improve in 2026, we expect some of those reserves may be released, which will ease the pressure on the bottom line. That does it for this month's Economic Update video. You can find our complete forecast using the link in the video description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.